Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Travis Talks. This week I am discussing Surrender20's situation. And explicitly, this is a situation that is occurring across a lot of eSports sites and gaming sites, whatever. But I decided that Surrender20 was a good candidate because everybody knows about Surrender20 and everybody loves Moobeat. And by the way, I want to clarify that Moobeat has no idea that I'm doing this video. I didn't talk to him about it. Maybe I should have, but there's always some kind of weird hostility that happens whenever you start talking about the economics of website stuff. And I want to make sure everyone knows he had nothing to do with this. Blame me if you feel frustrated. But one thing that I realized very rapidly after I became an independent content creator in the past couple of months, or returned to independent content creation, is that a lot of people don't understand the economics of how this stuff works, content in general in esports. And so I've decided I'm going to help fill everybody in. A lot of people thought that I was actually paying double of $5,000 per interview when I made that joke, which just shows that there's a great lack of understanding of how this stuff works. So let's talk about Surrender20. Bear with me, I'm self-producing. This is Surrender20. A lot of people know about it. It is a site that doesn't just cover esports, but also covers pretty much everything that's happening in League of Legends. And by the way, it gets a ton of traffic. You can kind of tell because like this second post here has 1,600 comments. Here's another one that has 900. One of them down here, this has 2,500. Hilariously, by the way, the esports coverage here only has 3 comments. So you can tell the site gets a lot of traffic because the amount of people that will comment, very small percentage. And they are usually first with all the exciting League of Legends news out there. All right. Now I want to talk about something that happened on July 11th. So I'll go ahead and pull this up. So Moobeat on July 11th, this is a little bit under 2 months ago, wrote, been in a rut lately. We're having extremely stressful behind-the-scenes issues. Behind-the-scenes ad issues dropped over 1/3 of the site's revenue in the past 3 weeks. If you've never experienced, it's hard to get communication from places regarding ads on site, stuff to serve, etc. The hardest part of Surrender20 is unreliability. Suddenly 30% less income going forward, disconnected to work with a lot of ad supplies, blah, blah, blah. It talks about he's having hospital issues and family issues and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is really sad to hear, not just because Moobeat is a great guy, which, by the way, if you haven't ever heard of Moobeat, he's beloved on Reddit. Here's a picture of me and Moobeat back when I didn't have a beard. But he has this amazing beard. This is us at 2014 World Finals in Seoul, and right before the crazy stadium filled up. And you can tell, obviously, that I got so inspired by Moobeat's beard that I decided to grow my own because it was just that inspiring. Anyway, Moobeat is a fantastic dude, and one of the few people I think in esports that has, to my understanding, never had any drama with anybody else. You know, everybody in esports and League of Legends, all these personalities, YouTubers, Twitter people, players, everybody ends up having drama. Moobeat universally loved, right? So that's part of the reason why this is such sad information to hear, that he's having issues with the revenue. And again, you can kind of look at those tweets to see what else is going on, some health issues as well. So obviously really sad to hear about this. And again, it kind of inspired me to talk a little bit about what's going on. And I have to mention AdBlock. Now, whenever anybody mentions AdBlock, there's a really interesting thing that happens, especially in the esports space, where everyone who's using AdBlock freaks out and is like, it's completely fine for me to use AdBlock. Every website has terrible tracking things. I should be able to use AdBlock as much as I want. All right. Now, I am not here to tell you not to use AdBlock, and I am not here to talk to you about and argue with you or scold you or anything like that. All right. For me, that ship sailed years ago. Everyone's going to use AdBlock, and it's just an easy thing to install. There's just no point in trying to make an argument about AdBlock. But let's talk a little bit about AdBlock, because you can't really ignore the existence of AdBlock whenever you're talking about the economics. Sorry, fixing my chain, and for some reason I'm just doing that in the middle of this video. You can't really talk about the economics of content, especially in the esports and gaming space, without discussing AdBlock. All right. So in virtually any other industry, a site that has this much attention going to it would be wildly successful, and whoever's running it would be able to hire other people and make a lot of money, and perhaps even sell the website to any number of different gaming or media companies or whatever, right? It's got so much traffic. It is tremendous. However, MooBeat, losing a third of his revenue is huge to him, because guess what? I would guess, again, I don't know the specifics, but I would guess, and I'm no stranger to media, that he's not making a lot of money off of this site. And we're going to talk about a couple different reasons why. One of them, again, as I said before, is Adblock. So here is the CEO of Gamers. Let's see, right around that same time, 2 days after MooBeat wrote that stuff, the Gamers website or group had to shut down eSports wikis. As you can tell here, he talks about how they invested $270,000 into it over the course of 12 months, which, by the way, is not that much whenever you have to pay a couple people to run it. You just think about full-time salaries for employees. And that they made just over $5,000 during that time. That is nothing. Now, he further elaborated in this Medium post, which, as we exit out of their funding thing, about how with eSports wikis, he kind of shares how the breakdown of all this is. And here in the middle of the article or towards the section with the different graphs, you can take a look at it. But he says that they determined that, just looking at the data, 80% of users were using Adblock on eSports wikis. All right, 80%. That is a dramatic number. All right, that means that only 1 out of 5 people that visit your website are being served an ad. So think about that. If you, in a world where you have a website that can make you $5,000 a month, that is $60,000 a year. And depending on where you live, that is a pretty good salary. A lot of people would be happy with that, especially because, running a website, you can do that from anywhere in the world. So $60,000 can go pretty far. In a world of 80% Adblock rate, that becomes $1,000 a month, which becomes $12,000 a year, which is below the poverty line, I believe. So, obviously 80% Adblock rate is pretty dramatic. I can't really discuss what Adblock rates were at any of the companies I've worked at previously, but I can tell you that it doesn't surprise me to hear 80%, and that based off of a couple months of running my YouTube channel, 80% is not surprising. So now you have a situation where it is really hard to make money. By the way, part of the reason why eSports Wikis was making so little is because that they are a basic, wiki website, which means you can only serve site ads. You can't serve, it's not like video. For those that don't know, when you serve ads on video, like pre-roll or whatever on YouTube, those are worth dramatically more than website ads. So you cut off this huge source of income, by the way, by being a website that can only do text and data, and then you get ad block to shit, so it's not good. The other thing that is interesting to talk about with the esports audience and the gaming audience is that it is a tremendously desktop-based audience. So what is happening across the world in website media is right now is that you have a lot of people that are switching to looking at stuff on their phones or iPads or tablets or whatever. And so you have this shift where more and more and more increasingly these audiences are going from being a desktop audience where people look at stuff on their laptop or on their computer, and then they become a mobile audience. And the great thing about mobile from a media company perspective is that you can still serve ads there. There's not really the ad blocking stuff yet. It's not very prevalent. And, there's also, whenever people are on their phones, I think you can kind of lock them in a better way using apps and that kind of thing. So mobile audience is it's becoming a more valuable segment in a lot of ways than desktop, as desktop gets more ad blocked. So again, when not only are people running ad block at such a huge rate, but then additionally it is people are looking more on their PC than on their phone. That's even more of your audience that doesn't get ads through the mobile stuff. Another issue that's occurring is that you have a very global audience for esports. All right, and so everybody always talks about how great this is, and I think it is really cool. Like, I love the fact that, my content gets viewed by people all over the world, right? It's really cool. I got recognized one time at a shoe store in Sweden. All right, that's just how crazy this is. The problem is that the U.S. is the #1 most valuable media market in the world. And so when, let's say you're a YouTuber, if 90% of your audience is in the U.S., you can have a much smaller audience than somebody whose audience is about 50% in the U.S., because they're going to make, because let's put it this way. Just for video, you kind of run ads based off of the CPMs, right? Which is how much money you get paid per 1,000 people that watch an ad. CPMs in the US are way more, like they can be $5, depending on whatever awesome deal you have during the holidays. It might spike up to 10 or whatever. And then there's a rev split with whatever company you're using, or if it's YouTube, it's Google or whatever. So that's like, pretty good. In Russia, CPMs can be, I've heard that they could be like 70 cents, right? So you're comparing, $5 or more to the 70 cents. So global audience kind of hurts you on making money there. And I'm pretty sure that it also hurts you. It doesn't just hurt you on the video ad stuff, but it's also hurting you on the website ads. So Mubeat, who has a mostly desktop audience that's ad blocking him to shit, then he has 20% of his audience, let's just say, based on these other numbers, that are from people outside, or that aren't running ad block, but probably half of those people are outside the US. So then that ad money is dramatically less valuable, most likely. It's not good, right? Now, then you kind of think, all right, well, at least he gets to pocket all of that money. Well, not really, because running a site with a lot of traffic means that you're going to pay a lot of server costs. I think Mubeat has other people that work along with him, like Asian Beat, for instance, who posts some of this stuff. It is a full-time job. Like, he often talks about when he goes on vacation and all his stuff pours out, or he goes to sleep. Like, this guy is on it. He really wants to create all this amazing content for people, and yet I highly doubt that he is doing incredibly well financially, despite having probably the most popular League of Legends website in the world, which, by the way, is the most popular game in the world. It's a huge pity. And again, like, this guy should be wildly successful. It's not just an eSports website. It is so much more, right? Like, he's not just limited to the eSports audience. He has a lot of other stuff. So anyway, he has tried to figure out other ways to make money, right? Because when you have a big enough audience, hopefully you can monetize it somehow. So maybe you can't make money off of ads, right? But with a large audience, you should be able to figure out some way to do it. And obviously crowdfunding is a huge thing right now. Now, I just saw today that Thorin was able to crowdfund a new show that or returning one of his shows. And that was a pretty successful Patreon. They needed like 2,500, and I believe they're pretty close to making it right now if they haven't already gotten it. This is the Surrender20 Patreon, which I know was started, I think it was earlier than, it was at least at the end of 2016. So it's probably been up for at least a year, if not earlier. And right now it's sitting at $448 per month. And I know that this number actually was much lower a year ago, a month ago, whenever he made that post. But several different people saw him talking about the ad revenue issues and all that stuff, and so that number went up. So, I'm probably going to do a different video where I talk about my situation, what I'm trying to do, and all this kind of thing. But when people suggest that I do Patreon, I have yet to see a very successful Patreon in esports. Maybe the Thorin one will be the first one, but even then that's at a pretty small scale because it's only for one show. So, massive audience, everyone's ad blocking. They're not really crowdfunding in a very meaningful way. Not a good situation. He also has an Amazon affiliate link up, but that's probably not doing too much for him either. So anyway, the reason I did this is because I, again, just think that, look, most audiences would not care about this stuff. Nobody would watch this video. Perhaps no one will watch this video. But I think that the esports audience in particular is incredibly passionate and very interested in knowing what's going on behind the scenes and understanding this type of stuff. And nobody is really transparent in esports, which is one of the big things I get frustrated by. And so I'm trying to sort of raise awareness of just the economics of the stuff. And again, I don't think, like, a lot of people will say, well, I'll just turn it off ad block. That's nice, but quite frankly, the way that this stuff works on our scale, it's on a scale of like hundreds of thousands to millions of people. Even if everyone watches this video, which I doubt it'll get even close to 100,000 views, and they turn off ad block, every single one of those people, you're not really going to make that much of a change, right? So look, it's great if you want to do it, but I don't know. Either way, I just want everybody to kind of have a context for how this stuff works. I feel really bad about Mubeat. I am in an okay position because I can probably just go get a job elsewhere, but this guy works really, really hard for everything he does, and it just sucks that there's just no money in it because of the type of website he runs and the audience he has. Anyway, this has been this episode of Travis Talks. Hope you've enjoyed it. You can check out more of my coverage of esports stuff over on my YouTube channel, which is right here if you're watching this. And if you do want to support me, you can do so over at travisgafford.com/support. There's a link below, because guess what? Ad block rates are pretty bad on YouTube too. Anyway, thanks for watching.